Hey, it is January 12th after school, and I was just updating my to-do lists, and I thought, what a good opportunity for me to just make a quick video to show what my to-do lists look like and how I use them. And so I have different lists, and just to say, I am a to-do list person. I need to write it down. If I don't write it down, I will probably forget. So I have learned that I am a to-do list person, and that's fine. I decided last year to just go all in and create to-do lists for preparing for IEPs and a to-do list for what to do after an IEP has happened. And I have found that those are super helpful for me because there's just so many things that you have to do to prepare for an IEP, and then more things to do afterward, and that doesn't even include all the steps to creating the actual IEP. Like in the list I just have finish IEP. So there's just a lot to do. I used to be resource room teacher and teacher consultant, but here I'm just a resource room teacher. So I might be in charge of doing some of the things for some of the kids, and someone else might be in charge of those things for other meetings. So it's just helpful for me to track what I need to do, and then to also track if someone else did it and I don't have to do it. So I'm going to show you what my IEP to-do list look like. So here is my IEP planning to-do list. I blocked out the names of my students on the side. The red names are for students who I needed to do multiple IEPs this year. So I had one student who we had an initial, like a transfer IEP, and then we needed to do another one as an actual reeval because we weren't able to get all the information and evaluations done in time. So we had two for that student, and then I have a few fifth graders who, the way my district works is if a fifth grader, or like a transition, so in my case elementary, going from fifth grade to sixth grade, going from an elementary school to a middle school, if they have an IEP in the fall, they need to have another one in the spring. So if their annual or reval is due in the fall, that happens, but then we need to make another one in the springtime just to make sure everything is up to date and ready to go for middle school, which I understand. It's a good idea, but it's extra work because you have to do double the IEPs for those students. But so those are my red ones. That's why they're red. The rest are black. And then I've got the due date for the students. And so we usually use Doodle. It's a website that you can create events and surveys. And so you could send out a survey to staff saying, this IEP is due for this student, this is the due date, these are the days I'm available to meet. Please check all the boxes for the days that you're available. And then the hope is that there's at least one time and day where all the staff who are invited to this meeting can attend. And if there isn't, then I go back and find more options and keep going. But and in order to do that, I use my own availability and the principal's availability and the gen ed teachers' availability in terms of before school and their specials, and if needed, their lunch. I rarely go to after school as an option for scheduling IEPs just because most teachers don't want after school. They don't want to. So I'm fine. I wouldn't have all my IEP meetings, any meetings after school, but it's not the majority opinion. So I've learned to deal with that. But so send a doodle to staff, contact parent 1 to 3 times. So once I get a date and a time from all the staff here at the school, or all staff from, anywhere, anyone who's a part of the team, once I have at least one possibility, I contact parents. I am required to attempt to contact them at least 3 times if I don't hear back from them. So if I contact them on email and they respond immediately, then I'm good, I'm done. But if they don't respond, then I try texting, and then if they don't respond, I try calling. So I try different means of communication to contact them, and I'm required to try at least 3 times. Once I contact parents, I'll put a 1. And then if they respond, then I'll change it to a check mark. If they don't respond, then I'll send out another message to them, and I'll change it to 2. So that's how I keep track of that. And then, and this is just a little graphic, checkmark graphic that I found online that works pretty well. So then IEP scheduled after parent is contacted. And that's me just emailing everybody saying, this is the date, watch out, I will be sending out an invite soon. And then the invite is finalized. We have a program for special ed that we use to create IEPs and invites for IEPs and all IEP related documents for students. And so I need to create the invite, I need to send it into central office, they finalize it, I send a copy home. I used to send hard copies to, in their mail, put hard copies in staff member mailboxes, but everything has become so virtual and digital, I just send it through email, and everybody's fine with that. I will send a hard copy paper home though, but I also email or contact parents and staff a day or 2 before the meeting, just to say, hey, just as a reminder, this IEP is coming up for this kid, looking forward to seeing you all, something like that. So I send the invite and I send a reminder as well. And then a Google Meet link sent. So our district uses Google Meets for virtual meetings. My previous district used Zoom. So I like Zoom more, but I've gotten used to Google Meet. So it is really convenient because we use Google for so much. A Google Classroom, and we have lots of things on the drive and things like that. So Google Meet is convenient in that way. And then IEP is completed. So I just finished writing the IEP, ready for the meeting. And then the IEP meeting occurred. So those are all the things that I have included for planning the IEP. So then, for the after IEP to-do list, I have the first thing being email sent to central office, our county ESA, for parent signature. So once the IEP has been finished and IEP has occurred, sometimes I'm done with it by the time the IEP is done. Other times we need to make some changes to it. So I might have some parent concerns or staff input to include on the first page, the front page. Or sometimes I will have a meeting and I'll have some things prepared, some goals prepared, but other goals I might be like, this is what I'm thinking, but I want to ask the team, see if Jen and teacher agrees that this is important, or speech therapist, what are you doing? Things like that. So sometimes it's just ready to go and it's done, and other times I need to make some changes and updates or add accommodations or whatever. So once it's done, Then I send it into central office and they finalize it. And then once it's finalized, I I'm burping, I think. I don't know if you can hear that, but I'm making a weird noise in my throat. So then once it's finalized, I share the IEP info with teachers. And so what that looks like is kind of like an IEP at a glance. And something I created myself. It's nothing fancy. I just use a Google Doc for it. I used to send give hard copies to teachers, but I just keep it on the drive, and that's simple enough and easy enough for everyone to access. So I send the IEP info to teachers so they can see it, and then I print that same info and put in my caseload binder, which is a big, thick binder that has all my students in it. It's got my progress monitoring data in it. It's got their about me. It's got work that they have completed this year. I have other binders that I call IEP binders or student binders, and that's where I have their old work and copies of their IEP and old IEPs. And so I've gotten this IEP copy and student binder. So I need a copy of the IEP in that student binder. The IEP info for myself, so when I look up the student, I can find their accommodations immediately if I cannot remember offhand. I know their goals, I know everything on there, concerns that their parents had shared, things like that. And then progress monitoring info in my caseload binder. So, like I said, that's my big, this year it's blue, my big blue binder with all my students' information and data in it. I create documents where I make tables and I include their short-term and long-term IEP goals, and I make tables to track the data and record it when I assess them. And so that has to be updated every IEP and reprinted, and I put that in my caseload binder. And then an IEP copy also goes in their CA60, which is the file that goes with them from elementary all through high school. And so a copy of the IEP needs to go in that. And the IEP is also emailed home to parents. And so whether it's just the IEP or it's also a re-eval, or an initial, so there's eligibility recommendation, whatever documents need to go home that have been finalized, I just send home all together. And so that's the list. And these are upcoming, my next students that I will need to be planning for. And this student, so I just copy. Sorry, I made that more complicated than it needed to be. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. And I don't think I mentioned these dashes, the hyphens that I put in here. I've got those up here as well. Those mean I did not do it. It got done, but I didn't do it because it was probably the school psychologist who did it. We had a teacher consultant last year, but we kind of consolidated different positions. So any of these tasks are usually either done by myself or one of our district school psychs. And so if I put that dash in there, it means that it got done, but I did not do it. So that's why, like, the due dates, I didn't even put in the due dates for some of these students because they were initials, and that was all something that the psych dealt with, and they reached out to parents to schedule, and they got the signed the document asking parents to accept or deny, evaluation procedures, and so all of that is dealt with by somebody else. And then the green checks are something that I did. So that's what I've got, and it works really well. It's super helpful. I wish I had created something like this years ago. And then I just have my normal to-do list all in this document. So I've got just my normal to-do list, things that I need to do at work, things that I need to do for work but I can do at home, things for my paras, things to do for Girls on the Run. I might kind of take charge of our school garden this year, and so I've got a to-do list for that. Yeah, so hopefully that's helpful. I encourage special ed or resource room teachers to use something like this because I find it super helpful, and it's just so many things that you need to do before and after an IEP. I just have, for the planning, IEP completed. I don't have any part of the actual IEP. Like, there's so many parts to an actual IEP that you need to fill out and you need data for. And people you need to go to get data and websites and whatever, So it's a process. So thank you so much. I hope this was helpful. And hopefully I'll see you in another video. Bye.